The first time I saw her, she was sitting in my mother-in-law's kitchen, eating pistachios out of a crystal bowl like she'd been there her whole life. Nobody introduced her. That's the part I still think about sometimes, not the affair itself. Not even my husband lying to my face for months. Just the fact that everyone else already seemed adjusted to her existence, while I stood there holding a tray of tea glasses like an idiot. My mother-in-law glanced at me once, very quickly. Then she said, "Noura, bring more sugar." Like nothing strange was happening at all. I married Yusuf 3 years earlier in Aqaba during the hottest week of August. My cousins danced until 2 in the morning. My father cried during the nikah and pretended he had dust in his eyes afterward. Yusuf's family arrived with gold bracelets and too many opinions. The women inspected everything discreetly. My dress, my posture, the way my mother arranged desserts. That's normal where I'm from. Nobody says the word evaluation out loud, but everybody feels it, especially women. Yusuf barely touched me during the wedding. He acted respectful, reserved. My aunts loved that about him. "Calm men make stable husbands," one of them whispered while pinning money onto my dress. I believed her. Back then, I confused calmness with safety. The first year of marriage was fine. That's the honest word for it. Fine. We rented an apartment in Amman near the 4th Circle. Beige building, loud plumbing. A tiny balcony overlooking a shawarma place that made the whole street smell like grilled onions after midnight. I worked part-time translating medical documents for a private clinic. Yusuf worked in logistics for his uncle's shipping company. He wasn't cruel. I need to say that clearly because people imagine betrayal arriving dramatically, screaming, bruises, lipstick on collars. Usually, it arrives through smaller things. Correction, withholding, tiny humiliations that accumulate quietly. Yusuf had a way of making me feel slightly embarrassing all the time. If I talked too much around his friends, he'd squeeze my wrist under the table later and say, smiling, "You get excited like a child." If I got upset, he'd become weirdly formal. "Please lower your voice." That sentence used to make me instantly feel insane. Once, during dinner at his parents' house, I accidentally mentioned that he still sent his laundry to his mother sometimes because he hated how I folded shirts. Everybody laughed, even me. Yusuf laughed hardest. Then, in the car ride home, he stared out the windshield and said quietly, "You really enjoy making me look small in front of people." I apologized before we even reached our apartment. That became our pattern. He'd wound me slowly, I'd react, then somehow I'd end up feeling guilty for reacting incorrectly. The strange thing is, if you asked me then whether I was unhappy, I probably would have said no. Just tired. There's a difference. About a year into the marriage, his mother started mentioning children every single time she saw me. Not directly at first. She'd leave baby videos playing loudly on her phone when I walked into the room. She'd talk about fertile women like they were miracle crops. Then, subtler things stopped. She stopped buying me gifts during Eid. Stopped introducing me proudly to distant relatives. Stopped defending me when Yusuf snapped at me over stupid things. I knew what that meant before anyone said it. People thought I was the problem. I went to doctors alone because Yusuf said clinic waiting rooms made him anxious. Every test came back normal. The doctor eventually asked if my husband planned to come in too. I lied immediately. His schedule is difficult. The doctor gave me a look I understood instantly. Women understand certain silences globally. One night, I brought it up carefully while we were eating lentil soup in front of the television. "Maybe you should get checked too." Yusuf didn't even look away from the screen. So now it's my fault? I didn't say that. You implied it. I remember sitting there holding my spoon while the soup went cold. The apartment suddenly felt airless. Then, and this still embarrasses me, I changed the subject. I asked if he wanted more lemon. That's what survival starts looking like after a while. Tiny negotiations with yourself. The woman in my mother-in-law's kitchen was named Hiba. I found that out because Yusuf's sister asked her if she wanted more coffee. Hiba smiled without showing teeth. Just half a cup. She was younger than me, maybe 24. Perfect skin, expensive handbag, soft Beirut accent. The kind of woman older women describe as light, meaning easy to place into rooms. I kept waiting for somebody to explain why she was there. Nobody did. Lunch continued normally. Lamb, rice, mint yogurt, men speaking loudly in the salon while the women carried plates back and forth from the kitchen. At one point, my mother-in-law asked Hiba to help choose fabric for new curtains. Not me, Hiba. I stood by the sink rinsing dishes too long because my hands had stopped working correctly. Yusuf came into the kitchen eventually and lowered his voice. Why are you acting strange? I stared at him. Who is she? He exhaled immediately, irritated already. She's helping my uncle with an event. Why is she here? She's a guest. Relax. Relax. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, Your mother hates guests. Which was true. She complained about everyone after they left. But not Hiba, apparently. Yusuf dried his hands slowly with a dish towel. You always create tension out of nothing. There it was again. That feeling that reality itself was becoming slippery. The worst part wasn't even what he said. It was how practiced he sounded saying it. Like he'd already rehearsed this version of events privately. 2 weeks later, I found a gold earring in Yusuf's car. Not hidden, just sitting there near the gear shift. I actually recognized it immediately because Hiba had been wearing the pair during lunch. I remember staring at it while traffic moved around me outside the windshield. Someone honked. A delivery scooter nearly clipped my mirror. Normal afternoon. Meanwhile, my marriage quietly rearranged itself. When Yusuf came home that night, I placed the earring beside his keys on the counter. No speech, no accusation. He froze for maybe half a second. Then he said something unbelievable. That's not what it looks like. To this day, I still don't know why cheating people say that sentence. Human beings could walk in on a literal fire and somebody would still insist the smoke meant something else. She forgot it in your car. She rode with a group. Why? She needed help after an event. I nodded slowly. Then he made the mistake that changed everything. He got offended. You went through my car? I looked at him for a long moment and suddenly saw the entire structure of our marriage clearly. Not emotionally, mechanically. Every conversation worked the same way. Confuse, redirect, criticize reaction, avoid accountability. I got so tired all at once. Not angry, tired. I'm going to sleep, I said. He followed me into the bedroom. You're being dramatic. I pulled off my earrings in front of the mirror carefully because my hands were shaking now. You know what's funny? I said. If you had just lied better, maybe I would have stayed stupid longer. That finally shut him up. After that, things became uglier in quieter ways. His mother started calling me less, then only calling Yusuf, then inviting him places without mentioning me. One afternoon, I stopped by her house unexpectedly to drop off medication she'd asked for. Hiba opened the door. Not his mother. Hiba. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then, she smiled awkwardly and stepped aside. "Come in." Like she belonged there, my chest went physically cold. Inside, Yusuf's mother was teaching her how to shape mamoul dough in the kitchen. I stood there holding a pharmacy bag while flour dust floated through the sunlight. Nobody looked ashamed. That was the moment something inside me detached permanently. Not because of Hiba, because I realized these people had slowly turned me into an inconvenience they were waiting to phase out politely. My mother-in-law recovered first. "Noura, you should have called before coming." I handed her the medicine. "You forgot this." Then, and this part still makes my skin crawl, she touched my cheek gently and said, "You look exhausted lately." Like I was the unstable one. Like my body was simply failing under mysterious conditions. I left after maybe 4 minutes. In the elevator downstairs, an elderly neighbor smiled at me and asked when I planned to have children. I laughed so suddenly, she looked startled. I didn't leave immediately after that. That would sound cleaner than the truth. Actually, I stayed another 4 months. People don't understand how hard it is to untangle yourself from a marriage once entire families are wrapped around it like vines, especially where I come from. Leaving a husband isn't just leaving a person, it's disrupting an ecosystem. I kept thinking maybe I was exaggerating. Maybe there wasn't technically proof. Maybe emotional humiliation wasn't enough reason. Then, one night, Yusuf came home late, smelling like oud perfume that wasn't mine. I was folding laundry on the couch. He loosened his watch and said casually, "Mama invited Hiba for Eid this year. Be normal, please." Just like that. Be normal. I actually stopped folding. "You want me to sit with her at Eid? She's a guest. You're sleeping with her." His expression changed instantly. Not guilty. Cornered. Then weirdly cold. "You should be careful what accusations you make." I stared at him, and suddenly I saw the future so clearly, it frightened me. 10 years. 15. Me becoming one of those women who speaks through clenched teeth while serving coffee at family gatherings, pretending not to notice another woman wearing her husband's attention openly. Something in me rejected that future immediately. Not loudly, quietly, like a lock turning. "I'm leaving after Eid," I said. Yusuf blinked. "Don't be ridiculous." But his voice had changed. For the first time since I'd known him, he sounded uncertain. I moved back to my parents' apartment 2 months later. My father barely spoke for a week. My mother cried while cooking. My aunts called pretending to check on me while collecting details carefully. And still, even through all that embarrassment, I slept better. That's what nobody tells you. Sometimes peace arrives before happiness does. The divorce still isn't finalized. In my family, that process moves slowly because everybody wants one last chance to save appearances. Yusuf still sends messages occasionally, mostly logistical things now. Bills, documents, furniture. Last week he texted, "I think you gave up too easily." I stared at the message for a while. Then I looked around my tiny rented apartment. Folded blankets on the chair, tea cooling beside the window, rain tapping softly against the glass. No tension, no performance, no waiting for somebody to correct my tone. I didn't answer him. I just deleted the message and went back to folding laundry exactly the way I like.